So today we're going to be looking at two powerhouse ETFs, QQQ and VOO. You probably heard of these before. If not, a little rundown. QQQ looks at the top 100 stocks on the NASDAQ exchange and tracks them essentially. And VOO tracks the S&P 500 exchange and it looks at the top 500 stocks and companies on there. And if you want to learn on how to choose these ETFs and how to choose the best ETF for you, then make sure you check out the article that is linked below. In fact, check out the article that is linked to this because there are some cool, useful tools and resources that if you're a new investor or if you're someone looking to tweak your investment strategy and refine it in some ways, then you might find something helpful and something really useful that you can take with you out of this. And that's my whole point, to help you take something of value out of this video. So the differences in a nutshell, QQQ is more attractive for day traders due to its higher volume. It also yields a higher return overall and kind of in different periods and different time periods. VOO contains more assets under management. It also yields a higher average annual return, which I'll kind of go over later on. It also charges less management fees. They also have a higher dividend and a lower PE ratio for all you guys who are into PE ratios and balance sheets and finances and all that kind of stuff. So let's go forward and we went over the description, and if you want to follow more, check out this channel, of course. Subscribe, like. I'll be putting up more information and more helpful stuff. Also have a TikTok channel as well if you want to follow there and look for some quick tips. If you had a short attention span like I do sometimes, you can go there. Now in terms of a little bit of a history, inception of QQQ, they started in 1999 while VOO started in 2010, so a 10-year difference between the two. QQQ is managed by Invesco. Their sector that they're focused in is in technology. The region that they operate in is North America. Asset class is mostly in equities and large cap, but their style is more growth orientated. With VOO, they've been around since 2010. The group that operates them is Vanguard, the equity index group. They're also into technology. They operate in North America. They're mostly into equity large caps, but they're more of a blend, and they have over 500 stocks. So most likely it's going to be more of a blend, more diversified than QQQ, which is a little more concentrated. Now, in terms of volume, the numbers behind it, the volume of QQQ is 76 million. Their average daily volume is almost 58 million, while with VOO, their volume is around 5 million and their average daily volume is around 4 million, which is still high, but compared to QQQ, not as much. QQQ is actually the second largest ETF on the market. I'm pretty sure you can guess which one is number one if you've been around the investing world for a while. If not, take a guess. Let me know. Have a crack at it and see what you think number one is. Now, that's why day traders like this, because there's so much volume. There's so many shares traded. It's really liquid. They can get in and out of positions real quick. They get a really good price, a really tight price that they like. Whereas with VOO, with a lot of day traders, you might not get the price you like. There might not be too much liquidity, so it's going to be stale. It's going to be hard to trade this and get in and out. So just keep that in mind. If you're a long-term investor, I mean, both are kind of fine. That's not going to be a big difference. That's not going to be like a decider for you. In terms of assets under management, VOO has around 774 billion, while QQQ has around 162 billion of dollars of assets under management. Their price to earnings ratio, so with QQQ it's around 22.7, while with VOO it's around 20.1, which they're both okay. The closer to zero the better. It just means they're more financial or kind of stable in terms of finances. If you know more about PE ratios, let me know in the comments below. In terms of annual dividend yield, it is around 0.71 for QQQ, and their management fees are 0.2. So what I like to do is to look at the annual dividend yield, subtract the management fees, and that kind of gives you the overall distribution. Because they're both calculated annually, with the distribution of dividends, they're given out every quarter. So a dividend is basically just a short little recap or summary. It's kind of like a bonus, sort of like a thank you for investing with us. It's like a profit split or profit share in a way, splitting their profits with you. So just keep that in mind. With VOO, it's around 1.65 and the management fee is 0.03. So big difference there. In fact, if you subtract it, you would get a little more bang for your buck, or a lot more bang for your buck with VOO. You get a 1.62 basically distribution at the end of the year, kind of like a bonus, 1.62 bonus, whereas with QQQ you'd be getting a 0.5 bonus. So quite a big difference there. Now, in terms of returns, I'm not going to go too much into the little details because depending on when you're watching this, it could change, it could fluctuate. But I will go over the average annual returns, which is quite significant in this case. So with QQQ, it's around 5.2%. With VOO, it's around 19.1. And how that's calculated is that it looks at the overall return since inception, and it divides that by the number of years. So for example, it's 2023, so with QQQ looks at the overall returns, and then it just divides it by since 1999. So let's go 2000 first, divided by 23. And with VOO, it's about the same, but divided by since it started, so which was 2010, which would be 13. So that's the division. So it may be a little bit skewed, but it still gives some pretty important information in terms of deciding on which investment is right for you, right? It's still a factor to consider. Another one that I look at is what has been the return since COVID. It's important to look at what has been the return of this fund or stock since a major crash, a major event. And in this case, COVID was a big event for a lot of us. For QQQ, the return has been 508%. And with VOO, it's been around 71%. So quite a big difference between the two. And since inception, the return on QQQ has been 508%. And VOO's return since inception, try saying that a lot, has been 260%. And as you can see here, here's an example of, had you invested $1,000 since the beginning of inception with VOO, you would have had around $9,000, and you can see their annual return is calculated over here. And if you want to make your own calculations, you can definitely do that. I don't have the link here, but I will have it in this article when you see it. So anyways, with QQQ, the investment of $1,000 is will give you around 3,200, and you can see the annual return is around 5% based off of this duration here. So in terms of portfolio composition, we touched on that earlier, but with VOO, there's around 500 stocks or 500 companies that they're invested in, whereas with QQQ, it's around 101. And if you go to the article and click on the numbers there, it'll show you a breakdown of all the stocks there that they're invested in. So it gives you a good idea there. In terms of the sector, like the weight and percentage where they're invested in, both of them are fairly similar in terms of information technology. QQQ is a little bit heavier with 51% of its portfolio in information technology, and they kind of split up, or they're kind of that's where the line gets drawn, or that's in terms of similarities. They quite differ after that. So with QQQ, 16.2% is in communication services, and then 15% is in consumer discretionary. Whereas with VOO, around 14.3% is in healthcare, and then 11.7% is in financial. So they're both quite different after information technology. And in terms of top 5 holdings, they're both fairly similar. With QQQ, most of their holdings are in Microsoft and Apple, and then Amazon, Nvidia, and then Google come after that. As you can see with the percentage, 12% and roughly 12% in Microsoft, and then 12% in Apple. That's quite a bit in there. That kind of makes up for some of the others there. And then with VOO, their major holdings are in Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, and Tesla. So Apple and Microsoft have a major holding in this portfolio, 6.6% in Apple and 5.56 roughly percent in Microsoft. You can see here the chart, kind of like a little visual representation of how they have performed since COVID, as well as since inception. And you can see here the difference that QQQ and VOO has in terms of inception, basically a 10-year difference between the two. And if you want to know where to invest in these, I have a link in the description below. But if you go straight to the article, you get a $10 bonus, and this is through eToro. So I do want to disclaim I do get compensated by them. I may or may not receive compensation by them, depending on you, but it's no cost to you, no extra cost. If you want, you can invest elsewhere as well. These are two widely available ETFs, so you can get them on almost any brokerage. But if you do go with eToro, you get a $10 bonus if you click on this link here. And if you live outside of the US, you can also invest with them. If you live in Canada, then you can go with Wealthsimple. If you do go with this link here, then you get a $5 bonus, if not more than $5. You could get more than that. And you can also look at some other comparisons. Now, another thing I want to touch on is just a couple other articles. How to choose an ETF. I mean, that's a good one there to look at if you're interested. How to pick the ETF that's best for you based on a lot of factors that not a lot of people consider, because 80% of investors lose money, and there are for some really key reasons that not a lot of people may be aware of. So it's important to check that out. This article will help you guide you and get you some idea on how to invest wisely and set yourself up for the best odds of financial success in the future. So if you like this, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of fun stuff. Share with anyone who you might think would value this or would get some value out of this. And invest simple. Cheers.